I don't know how true it is. I saw a lady on social media. She was really outraged, by what the securities are doing, that taking their wares, throwing them away into the trucks. I mean, crates of eggs. I mean, you really don't do that. You really don't do that. These are fragile, breakable things, I mean, you just need to tell the ex-seller that, look, please, I think, you should pack your wares and leave. And that will be a way of minimizing the adversity of the strict implementation of the rules. But I'm mandated to enforce this, and you'll do it. I don't think that is right. In fact, it makes people hostile to the law enforcement agencies. I mean, this should be a situation of cooperation, mutual cooperation for the benefit of the people. After all, they are doing this for the benefit of the people. And if your actions really are counterproductive and they impact negatively on the people, then the enforcement process has absolutely no beneficial value.
You have seen an aerial view of the Serekunda market these 2 days preceding the Eid al-Fitr on social media. Very alarming and very disturbing footages, like I said, on social media, which shows how people come together, clamor in here and there, trying to buy things for the Eid al-Fitr. Are you concerned on the issue of social distancing in the markets, in the naming, in the ceremonies? I mean, marriages and naming ceremonies are taking place, and people are coming together. It's worrisome.
Well, it is worrisome, but again, it is a question of having an effective awareness campaign. If you do institute an effective, vigorous, and aggressive awareness campaign, you probably will not have incidents of that nature. I mean, at least the market, will probably be quote unquote open on a rota basis. That okay, the vegetable vendors this time, of course the vegetable vendors, the fish vendors, and the butchers. I think they should be in the market at the same time. Because they're really dealing
with
consumables. Then maybe you can have time, for those who really sell, especially at this corrected time. I mean, shoes. I mean, dresses and so forth. Textile. You can have time for them, so that you do not have all the operators, market operators, at the same time in the market. You can classify them. I think so. In my layman way of thinking, I think this.
In our discussion, you just mentioned some of the steps that we should take in the implementation process vis-a-vis taxis, should take the limited passengers, and to help in that direction, government has decreased the price of fuel in order that drivers will not complain that we will lose revenue because we're making a minus in the number of passengers. What is your reaction to that? And still drivers are still adding the numbers in their vehicles.
Well, yes. Again, that's one of the efforts I think with government ought to have taken some time ago. But it's not taken, and as they say, it's never late than never. And we commend them for that, But then the reduction of the fare of the
passengers
of the price of
fuel.
I think it's about $7-8.
Right.
But then having regard to the price of oil.
It doesn't commensurate.
I think it should still go further down. And you really think a coaster, you know, that takes maybe 20 or 24 passengers, you know, and is limited to 50% of that. You do not know what is the rate of consumption of the fuel by that particular vehicle, because that also matters. You know? After all, it is not only the fuel, but there are other things that the vehicles use. You know, you want to take into account the wear and tear also of the vehicle. You know, all those things. It's just not the fuel. Yeah? What the transport owners they are earning is not just applied towards the purchase of fuel, but there are other items too. And I think this also be taken into consideration and see, because this will just be for a period, the period that will be combating the COVID-19. And after, when we all collectively combat this deadly virus and defeat it, we can go back to normal life. So that government will have to take in a lot, or should be prepared to take in a lot, at least for this limited period. Yes.
This is a live event on Eyeafrica TV. I am talking to the Secretary General of the United Democratic Party and, of course, the leader of the party himself, the Honorable Hussein Udabo. We're looking at the global coronavirus pandemic that has hit the Gambia, but the numbers are not rising and the virus is being contained. As we speak, only one person has been confirmed dead, but again, not without much information as to the cause of death of that person, because some people are of the opinion that the person did not die of the virus. We will also look later on at the announcement of the state of the public emergency that the president has just announced, that has just been given to the president for him to use his executive power to call for another extra 21 days after National Assembly members voted against the prescribed 45 days. Honorable, let me come back to you, still on the COVID-19. We have a constitution we have a referendum on the constitution to come. We have general presidential elections at the end of next year. And according to what is being said on the international media, there is no quick solution to COVID-19. Some people think that it will be here to stay for a very long time. Others think that now against 2 years, probably there will be a way out in the form of a vaccine to be in the market. How will COVID-19 affect our electoral process?
Well,
are you concerned that it will? Certainly.
Mr. Jones, I am of the firm view that anyone who comes out with such pessimistic views has been demonic.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing that should stop, the elections being held. There's nothing at all. I mean, after all, we don't expect life to come to a standstill. We expect that things will, after 2-3 months, things will move on, as usual.
President Trump said so.
So we cannot really say that this is going to continue or may continue for another 2 years, and because of that, we do not do the needful. Whatever is needed to be done should be done, and in fact, it should start right now. That is why I think I agree with the CSOs request of the IEC that they should come out with a plan on registration of voters so that all that is required to be done for the holding of the 2021 presidential elections are done and everything is in place. And if everything is in place and something extraordinary, something really extraordinary happens, which would justify the postponement of the elections, and is done on good faith, not in order to self-perpetuate, then of course Gambians are reasonable. But then everything would have been in place. But we cannot tardy our actions because this might continue for another 2 years. Supposing when a cure is found for it in the next 2 months, and that is possible.
You said everything should have been in place. Everything like what?
Registration of voters, demarcation of the boundaries. If there is going to be any demarcation of boundaries, holding of the referendum on the new constitution.
A by-election has been postponed, by the way.
Well, yes. Again, by-election. I mean, we cannot. I don't think it will be right.
Within the circumstances.
I don't think it will be right for us to continue postponing the by-election ad infinitum in violation of the Constitution. I don't think that will be right. I mean, the Constitution has prescribed time within which elections should be held. And mark you, that provision is not one of the provisions that the 1997 Constitution says can be affected by a state of emergency. However, I mean, the sections that can be affected are clearly spelled out. So that is not one of the provisions. I mean, our Gambians have been accommodating, understanding, not really pushing the legal positions to its logical end. And I think this is the spirit in which Gambians have always lived.
I understand, but the Constitution never took into cognizance a force majeure. The pandemic is a force majeure. It's a case that has just come surprisingly. Everybody, this is a pandemic. It's a health issue.
Yes,
but the Constitution never foresee.
It is not pandemic. In fact, the state of emergency is just not a pandemic. The state of emergency can be declared for some other reason, not because of a state of emergency, not because of a pandemic. What I'm saying is that the suspension of certain provisions, maybe suspension is not wrong, is not the right word, but then the restrictions on the application of certain provisions of the constitutions, has been catered for. And of course, one of those provisions is the freedom of assembly. And freedom of assembly, really, electioneering is part, an integral part of the freedom of assembly. So I think that section dealing with elections, I think should, for me, should specifically have been brought in to say, well, when there's a state of emergency, you cannot do this. Look, in 1981, state of emergency was declared. In fact, that was as a result of civil strife. But it didn't stop the holding of the National Assembly elections. It didn't stop the holding of the presidential elections. I remember Cyril Diba's trial was adjourned. In fact, was stood down for him to go and get nominated by the chief before the chief justice. And it was during the state of emergency. The elections, campaign, and everything were conducted during the state of emergency. Maybe the difference is that we are saying that the coronavirus is transmissible from one person to another. So that is why you talk of social distancing. But nonetheless, we have all the facilities of reaching the people in Fatoto through this medium. You have the same facilities through Paradise, through other media outlets. Candidates can go to those media outlets, put across to the Gambian people their positions. So, but what I want to say, I don't think we'll ever reach that position, and I don't think anybody should really start thinking, can we do this? Can we do this? Pretend, and then in fact, slow down what you are expected to do, in anticipation that, well, if we reach that position, we can postpone the elections off on this ground. I don't think that is good thinking.
As a political actor in elections, do you have a time frame that the by-elections in Nyamina must take place?
Well, I mean, the Constitution stipulates a time frame, 90 days after the occurrence of the vacancy within. So it's not me who should really. What I'm saying is...
but that 90 days has lapsed.
That 90 days has lapsed because the Gambian people are understanding, accommodating. But we cannot really allow that spirit of the Gambians' accommodation to be abused by anybody.
So what would you do? What do you want to do now? Since it's had lapsed and there's a constitutional arrangement, it's been flouted, Gambians understand it. What is the UDP talking about it?
Well, what UDP is to talk about it, I think it's not a matter that I can say now. That would be a matter that UDP would have to discuss at the level of the executive. And you must remember, UDP is not the only political actor. There are other political actors. And whatever we want to do or whatever we do, we have to do it in consultation with other political actors.
Government has been revisiting the emergency powers, which has led to the state of state of emergency right now in March. It has extended it till April, but National Assembly rejected a further extension. Why did the National Assembly reject it? And in fact, your party tipped the balance.
Well, my party tipped the balance, but you see, the National Assembly, I think there's a misconception. The National Assembly never rejected an extension.
Okay.
Never rejected an extension. Yeah? The request was for 45 days, and it is the 45 days that was rejected. So to say that National Assembly rejected an extension is a very misleading statement. It's an aberration. In fact, I am aware that the Special Select Committee on COVID, the National Assembly Special Select Committee on COVID, in their report have suggested that an extension of 21 days should be granted. That document should have been presented to the National Assembly for action to be taken on, for a decision to be taken on it. But that was not done. What was done was the minister's motion for extension of 45 days was what was brought in. And of course, that was rejected. And I know government is aware of that. National Assembly Select Committee has suggested 21 days. If the 45 days request is not accommodated, I thought a government that is well-meaning, that is not want to really try to shift blame, would have said, well, since we are aware of that this is the position of the National Assembly, we are going to request for a 21 days extension. And then, as the word of saying would say, Jamane 9. But there was no rejection of the extension. The rejection was for 45 days.
Why? For you, it was just too long.
Because the 45 days that was given, I'm not sure whether the government, satisfactorily explained why it did not do all the things that it ought to have done within that period effectively. So, take a shorter time frame and put them under pressure to do the needful. In fact, I understand they were going to do it with conditions that will extend this, but under this condition and under that conditions. Yeah.
Normally, when I interview you and I ask you questions relating to the UDP, you always refer me to the executive committee of the UDP for taking a decision. The refusal for the 45 days extension, was it unanimously done at party headquarters where the executive sat on it before your parliamentarians
No,
took?
this was the somebody parliamentarians.
You had no hand in
We
it. The
had no,
executive had no hand in
we
it.
had no hand in it.
All right. Let me take you to my next question. Experts project more cases by June. Do you think that this will further call for extension of the state of emergency again?
Well, I think it would depend on what the situation looks like at that time. Certainly, and I think and I've always maintained that in order to combat this pandemic, you know, everyone should cooperate with government. In fact, that was my first call, even before government did anything. I said, we expect everyone to cooperate with government. And I said, we are prepared to work with the government. Our National Assembly members, our local government authorities will work with the government to combat this pandemic. We think Gambian because we are Gambians. And when you say we are not paying lip service to our Gambianism, it's real. It's real. We said it, and in fact, even before, there was this, if I may call it, proscription on people assembling. We said it. My party first said that, look, no political activities, no gatherings, because we know that through crowd, where you have crowds and so forth, you can have this easily spread. We did it. We then had, this was in March, I mean, second week of March, and we were then all geared up towards the old Badibu rally in Yabakunda, but we cancelled it, postponed all political activities. That shows how much concerned we are, how serious we are about this, and how committed we are to working with government in combating this pandemic.
If government should ease the restrictions, will you support it at the detriment of the people of the Gambia?
Well, I want to think that the government will be responsible enough. I don't think government will ease the restrictions without getting proper medical advice, proper professional advice on that. And that is what I think. I don't think
you will be supportive.
I don't think
you will be supportive to government.
I don't think government will, on its own, wanting to be patted on the back, ease restrictions without health justification for it, without professional justification for it. I don't think they will do that. And of course, as I have said, we want to be guided. We'll always continue to be guided by the professional opinion of the health workers. These are the experts in this field, and we cannot really disregard, their views. And well, we can, but we must not. We must not disregard their views. And I think their views will form the basis for any extension. And as I said, we have never opposed an extension, and I don't think we will ever oppose an extension.
The 21 days has been the prerogative of the president. And of course, if Parliament or the National Assembly doesn't sit, the president can go again and extend for 7 days and continue extending for 7 days until Parliament meets again before a vote can be taken. Yes. In governance, what do you think of that?
Well, I think that will really be very pathetic. That would be very sad.
But what would you do?
If I was in government position, before the lapse of the 21 days, I will engage all the parties in the National Assembly. I'll engage all of them, have an all-party caucus, and the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Health, let them engage them and tell them the need for them to do so, rather than, well, I can do this on that. It will just show, you know, that the president and his government, you know, are really shunning the National Assembly, and that's not an institution that he should shun.
As a political party, did you attempt to measure the impact of the coronavirus on the lives of the people?
Well, certainly, I know that in the provinces, you know, at this time of the year, major economic activities are the lumos. All the lumos have been closed. And that really has affected the earnings of a huge chunk of the Gambian population. And it has had its devastating social impact also, because they no longer in a position to provide for themselves adequately, I mean, sustenance for their families.
What did you find out, or what are the factors of these realities?
Realities of?
Of the lumos being closed and the people themselves not making money anymore?
Well, the realities of it is that, you know, just of the negative effect of the coronavirus on the people. Just was the negative
Did
effect.
you make any intervention to help?
Well,
as an actor and wanting to win the votes of those people come 2021?
I have, in a small way, tried to do so, but not as leader of the United Democratic Party.
Okay.
Because, see, Mr. Jones, I think what I find, what one should find reprehensible, unacceptable, is really to try to make political capital out of misfortunes of the ordinary members of the community. That is, for me, is an abomination. You don't do that. That's why I have not really done anything as leader of the United Democratic Party. I have set up on Easter, in fact it was from this, on this spot, that I launched the COVID-19 Buntung, you know, call it Buntung, of course, I mean silos or food store, you know? And to my very great pleasure, Gambians have responded very positively to this, and we've ensured and we continue to ensure that it is apolitical. In fact, we have delivered to Kuntaur Area Council, and we refused to deliver anything to our political representatives, our party representatives in these areas, because we do not want anyone to see this as a UDP effort. It should just be seen as the effort of Ousseynou Dabo, an elder Gambian citizen, who is concerned about the plight of the ordinary, some of these ordinary vulnerable people, and whose vulnerability has been further worsened by this COVID-19. And right now, we have in stock a few bags of rice and other food items, and we are going to purchase more to distribute. We've just delayed what we are doing because we see government is doing some distributions. And of course, if we go there, people start thinking that Usainu Dabo is competing with government. And we are not in any way competing with them. We want to complement government's efforts, but not competing with them. So I believe soon they will finish their distribution that is being done through the NDMA, and then we'll deliver to the various, to the remaining local government authorities what we can contribute towards alleviating the plight of the vulnerable members of the community.
The United Democratic Party and other political parties that are not in power could be regarded as shadow governments and have their eyes on what the present government is doing. Do you think that the Gambia, in the wake of COVID-19, has enough food in stock for the people of this country in the event things get out of hand?
But I do not think really we have enough food in stock. I do not think so.
Why did you say so?
Because
you made an inventory.
Well, we have not made an inventory as such. But then we know that there are some difficulties in getting foreign exchange to import more foods into the country. We know that, and of course we are not self-dependent, for food. We are dependent on the outside world. And of course, we also aware that movement, not only of airplanes and so forth, but even vessels in the seas, is still not as it used to be. So these are matters of great concern. I mean, we get our rice mainly from the Far East. I mean, if the vessels that are supposed to really ferry these commodities to us, the companies operating are themselves, quote unquote, under lockdown. And lockdown is just not those on the land, but even those on the seas. It's going to affect us severely. And of course, this is why any government in this country must address the food security situation with utmost urgency.
Still on you monitoring the government has just offered food relief of about 84% to ease the predicament, or to help people stand on their feet as a result of some of the regulations that are in place. Did you have your eyes on how things were going, and what are your comments regarding that?
No. Quite frankly, I just heard announcements that so many bags of rice have been delivered to XYZ governor, for distribution. But but that is all. And we want, at the end of the distribution, to interrogate how it was done. But you see, Mr. Jones, you said relief given to about 80% of the population, but that is very symbolic. Mr. Jones, you don't. I mean, I'm sure you don't. You will not say that. What is given is going to take them for 3-4 months. I mean, a bag of rice, not in some cases 25 kilo. I mean, really, that will not take a household for more than 2 weeks. So this is symbolic, and it's symbolic gesture that I really commend. I really commend it because, as they say, having a loaf is better than nothing. I really commend it, And of course, I want to also applaud others individuals, groups, organizations who have also intervened. They have stepped in to give where help should be given, to help where help should be given. I mean, right across the country, we see it daily on television, groups donating to communities food, individuals donating to communities food. We've seen that, and we want to applaud them for really coming in at this critical time in helping their fellow countrymen. And there's only God who can reward them for their gratitude, for their good work. For us, we can only express our gratitude to them.
You have recently been to Brikama at the aftermath of the fire. Was it politically motivated, or did you really want to go and help the people of Brikama after the fire disaster? Brikama is key, by the way, in the in numbers, in talking about numbers when it comes to elections in the Gambia.
No, you mean West Coast?
West Coast. West Coast, the kingmaker.
well, really, I didn't go there with any political reason. Look, when there was the disaster in Basse, I went there too.
Baro went there, Mama Kanda went there.
Yeah, I went there too and gave the donation. And prior to that, during the rainy season, there was flooding in URR, in CRR. I went there, gave my party's donation to help assuage the suffering of the people. And it was the same, in the same spirit that I went to Brikama. But you see, the point is that, Brikama, even if Usendabo goes to Brikama to drink attire, because,
political.
They come, that's my backyard.
Political gymnastic.
That's Brikama is my backyard. Yes.
Okay. All right, let's talk politics now. Some people are of the opinion that you will not be flag bearer. Do you have an answer for them?
But everybody has a right to entertain an opinion.
Would you be flag bearer of the UDP come 2021?
I'm a leader of the United Democratic Party, and at the appropriate time, I think, at the appropriate time, I will apply to the United Democratic Party to be selected for their presidential candidate. I'm not going to impose myself on them, but I'll apply, and my application would be treated by the selection committee as any other applicant.
Are we likely to see a woman flag bearer?
Well, if a woman flag bearer comes in for UDP, that could be, something that would be considered, certainly. I can only talk for UDP, I cannot talk for the other political parties.
The UDP is a force to be reckoned with.
Well, I think I want to leave that to the public to determine whether it's a force to be reckoned with. But I'm not being delusional, and I'm not really involved in self-deception. But I think really UDP is a party that has won the admiration and support of a huge number of Gambians, and I think at any election, I think we can perform well with great admiration. I certainly think. I don't think we can be humiliated at any elections in this country.
Some critics are throwing stones at the United Democratic Party by saying that your militants and supporters are in the habit of using foul languages. They are in the habit of vandalizing property and use violence. Is that true?
Well, Mr. Jones, let me start with the last two adjectives you used.
Vandalism?
Vandalizing and violence. Has any one of my militants been prosecuted here for damage to any property, for vandalizing any property?
It was alleged. It was alleged.
Those who say so, have they taken anyone, reported any particular specific individual to the police?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge. anyone charged with offense of violence, assaulting any person here, any political opponent here, has that occurred here? You know? Now, insults, I hear that, you know, but the point is that those who are saying this, they've turned their blind eyes to people who insult me. See, people have made audios here. I mean, use the most profane language against me. You see, not only was this profane language limited or directed at me and limited to me, but extended to my mother in a way that puts me in an incestuous relationship with my mother. They don't talk about that. And I think these are the dishonest people, and they will continue to be dishonest in the way they present things in this country, insofar as it concerns Hussein Dabo, because Hussein Dabo has been their problem, has been the obstacle to their political ascendancy. I've been their problem. Because I'm on the political scene, they cannot get anywhere, they cannot move an inch. So all that they can now do is to demonize me and demonize my party supporters. Mr. Jones, you saw it on GRTS, when someone in the presence of the president insulted me. In the presence of the president, insulted me, but nobody talks about that. I'll tell you, a Sarahule chap heaped insults on every member of the Dabo clan, up to Debo Kemo. For us, Debo Kemo is our Siring Bamba. But nobody talks about that. I don't encourage insults, and I've always addressed it. I've always told our supporters that, please, engage people constructively. When they go low, we go high. And I've said, look, when people insult me, don't retaliate. Don't insult back. And that is how much I can do. But those people who are saying this, in their presence, when they are sitting down, insulted and they were clapping. That just shows the lowest ebb to which they can degenerate themselves. To which they can degenerate.
As we wind down this interview, is there any possibility for an olive branch to be extended to President Barrow from the UDP?
Well, what President Barrow, is he at war with UDP? He was UDP. He chose to abandon UDP. You know, if you had rejected him, then it's an olive branch. But he chose to abandon UDP because UDP will not succumb to his political maneuvering. Will not encourage, you know, his ambition to be realized in the way he wanted it. So he abandoned UDP. So for anything, I mean, he took the decision. So any rapprochement, I think, should come from him, not from UDP.
My last question, and which should have been my first question, my first address, Eid Mubarak, and your message of Eid Mubarak to the Gambian people.
Well, my Eid Mubarak to the Gambian people, I think I have delivered it today, and just prayed for this country to enjoy the peace that is as always known. That after all, whatever happens, we will all remain Gambians. There's no doubt about that. And we must, in the pursuit of our various agenda, bear at the back of our mind that the tranquility of this country, the stability of this country is a sine qua non for us to continue in the pursuit of our different agendas of whatever nature. And this is what I would want to live with the Gambians and to pray that God accepts all our prayers and supplications during the month of Ramadan. Give each and every one of us a long lease of life in good health to witness the next Ramadan. And we also pray that this terrible pandemic, God answers our prayers and bring a very stormy wind to blow it away from this country and dump it in the seas. That's what I pray to God, and this is my message to Gambian people.
Amen. Thank you very much, Honorable Dabo.
You're welcome.
That was the Honorable Seno Dabo, the Secretary General of the United Democratic Party. He's been talking to me on Eyeafrica TV on issues surrounding COVID-19 and the politics of the Gambia as far as the United Democratic Party is concerned. From me, Malik Jones, thank you for watching, and bye-bye. Thank you so much.
dama kontaan bu baax sax si ñëw bi nga ñëw seet si suma tabax gi kontaan naa ci trop trop.
maa gën a kontaan bi ma ñëwee fekk sa tabax bi toll fii waaye nag man kontaanuma ci sama kër gi man.
lu xew.
ndax umpale wu loon ne ñoo bokkoon nekk Europe.
dëgg la
jamono yu ñu nekkee foofu yëpp man ak yow maa ngi am benn waay maa ngi ko yónnee xaalis bu bari pour mu sampal ma suma kër. te ba léegi tabax bi àggul fenn. te yow nga waxoon ma ne ma bi nga starté samp yàggul léegi nga toll fii foo jaar.
li waral loolu nag mooy dama ànd ak waa Baluwo.
kon su ma la déggee Baluwo dañuy yëngu ci samp kër tamit.
ni ngay def nag yomb na da ngay log on to www.baluwo.com mun ngaa jënd ci ñoom ciment suuf banta weñ ba ci daaj yi nga xam ne di nga ko soxla lépp lu jëm ci wàllu samp rek mun nga koo am ci lu yomb ak Baluwo daal.
Ñancho fele sirin Solifa man so fele sirin Kumbalin fi